We believed your brother could use a change of scenery. He's accompanying us instead of you. I'm sure you understand, my mom stated with that dismissive chuckle I knew all too well, as my brother, John, lugged his suitcase across the San Francisco airport terminal. After arriving from Denver, I stood frozen, the welcome sign I'd made slipping slightly in my grasp. This luxurious cruise, the one I'd spent months both planning and saving for, was intended as my opportunity to finally connect with my parent. Instead, I found myself watching my unemployed brother essentially steal my place without even a thank you. My name is Marianne Thompson, and at 35, I've created a successful life for myself in San Francisco, a world away from my family's constant disappointments. To afford this 5-day cruise, I'd saved for almost a year, taking on extra projects and forgoing my own vacations. The residential suite, the premium dining package, the exclusive shore excursions. I had meticulously chosen every detail to ensure it was perfect. Perfect for the three of us. Me, my mom, and my dad. Not for my 37-year-old brother who still resided in their basement, spending his days playing video games while they covered his expenses. When I allowed them to complete the online forms for the trip I was paying for, I never anticipated them substituting my brother's name for mine. John gets seasick if he's in the back, my mom declared, already guiding him toward the passenger seat of my rental car. My dad lingered quietly behind them, avoiding eye contact, as he always did when they pulled stunts like this. I observed as John sprawled out in what was supposed to be my seat, immediately reaching for his phone to check gaming notifications. The cruise documents in my bag suddenly felt incredibly heavy. All those carefully planned dinner reservations and excursions I'd booked were now rendered useless. The cruise line requires advance notice for passenger changes, I mentioned quietly, knowing it wouldn't make a difference. My mom waved her hand dismissively. Oh, we handled that weeks ago. Your spot was simply transferred to John's name. The resort confirmed everything yesterday. The casualness with which she spoke, as if replacing me were the most normal thing, churned my stomach. Clutching my car keys tighter, I felt the metal dig into my palm as I forced a smile. Standing there in that crowded airport terminal, some part of me knew that this moment would prove to be a turning point. The happy families rushing by us, the excited chatter of vacationers, all felt like a cruel mockery of what this trip was meant to be. As I loaded their luggage into the trunk, I overheard my mom already telling John about the spa treatments I'd scheduled for what was supposed to be our mother-daughter day at sea. The drive to the port felt like a recurring movie of my life. Every mile marker triggered another memory of being overshadowed by John. Growing up in Denver, our roles were clearly defined. John was the one who needed the support, while I was the one who could manage on her own. When I earned a full scholarship to college in San Francisco, my parents barely acknowledged it, preoccupied as they were with consoling John about his most recent failed job interview. When I secured my first executive position, my mom's only response was to inquire if I could send more money to assist with John's gaming equipment. I'd tried everything to gain their approval. Each achievement, every milestone, was just another attempt to demonstrate I was worthy of their attention. My apartment in San Francisco's Pacific Heights, the one I'd worked 60-hour weeks to afford, sat empty more weekends than not because I was constantly flying back to Denver, trying to be present for family dinners that inevitably turned into celebrations of John's latest nonicle. Your brother is considering taking some online classes, my mom would gush, while my recent promotion went unmentioned. My dad would simply sit there, nodding along, occasionally offering me apologetic glances that lacked any real action. This cruise was supposed to be different. For months, I'd been meticulously planning every detail, picturing how proud they'd be when they saw the luxury suite I'd booked, how impressed they'd be with the exclusive restaurants I'd reserved. I kept envisioning my mom's face when she saw the private balcony with its own hot tub, my dad's reaction to the premium wine package I'd arranged. For once, I believed they'd truly see me and understand how much I'd accomplished, how far I'd come. Instead, I was stuck listening to John complain about the car's air conditioning while my mom reminded me to drive carefully because your brother gets carsick. The leather steering wheel felt slippery beneath my sweaty palms as we neared the cruise ship area. Through the rearview mirror, I could see my mom showing John photos of the suite on her phone. The suite I'd spent countless extra hours at work to afford. "Look at this infinity pool," she exclaimed. "It's exactly what you need to relax." "Sweetie," I tightened my grip on the wheel, wondering if they'd even notice the tears I was trying to hold back. The worst part wasn't even missing out on the cruise. It was realizing that they'd likely planned this switch weeks ago, never once considering how it would affect me. The cruise terminal loomed ahead, its massive white structure gleaming under the California sun. My mom was practically vibrating with excitement as I unloaded their luggage, while John hadn't even bothered to offer help. Too engrossed in texting his gaming buddies about his upcoming vacation. I watched as one of the porters wheeled away their bags. My carefully packed overnight bag still untouched in the trunk, the bag I'd filled with new sundresses and sandals, anticipating dinners I'd never attend, memories I'd never make. "You'll take lots of pictures, right?" I heard myself ask, my voice sounding hollow, even to my own ears. My mom was already rummaging through her purse for their boarding passes, the ones I'd originally booked in my name. "Oh, of course. We'll show you everything when we get back," she replied, not even looking up. My dad, at least, had the decency to appear uncomfortable, shifting his weight from foot to foot as he stood there. "Thanks for the ride, honey," he mumbled before my mom summoned him to handle the check-in process. Rooted to the spot, I watched as they proceeded through security. John turned back once, not to thank me, but to ask if I remembered to pack. His motion sickness pills in his carry-on, the same pills I'd packed for myself, now transferred to his bag without my knowledge. Through the terminal windows, I could see the massive cruise ship, its pristine white hull stretching toward the sky. The ship I'd spent months researching, reading every review, studying deck plans late into the night to select the perfect suite. Location. As they disappeared into the terminal, I felt something shift within me. Years of suppressed hurt, of pushed-down anger, of striving to be the good daughter who never complained, all coalesced into a single, clear thought. I was done. Done trying to prove my worth to people who would never acknowledge it. Done competing with a brother who didn't even have to try. Done being the afterthought in my own family. Returning to my rental car, I made a decision that would alter everything. If my family wanted to treat me as if I didn't exist, I would finally grant them their wish. Complete silence. No calls, no texts, no emails. let them enjoy their cruise. It would be the last thing they ever received from me. As I drove away from the terminal, I could see them in my rearview mirror, already laughing and chatting as they headed toward their vacation, my vacation. But for the first time in my life, their happiness didn't diminish me. Instead, it empowered me because one possessed knowledge they lacked. This would be the last time they ever took me for granted. The first call from my mom arrived just hours after they set sail. The suite is gorgeous, honey. John is absolutely loving the private balcony. You should see how relaxed he already looks. Her voicemail overflowed with details about how much my brother was enjoying the amenities I'd paid for. I deleted it without responding. The second call came during their first dinner at the upscale steakhouse I'd reserved months in advance. The Wagyu beef is incredible. Your brother says it's the best meal he's ever had. Delete. By day 3 of their cruise, my mom's messages had adopted a slightly confused tone. Marianne, why aren't you answering? We sent you some photos from the spa day. The massage therapist said it was exactly what John needed for his gaming back pain. My dad left one awkward voicemail, mostly filled with uncomfortable pauses and a half-hearted hope that I was doing well. John, predictably, didn't bother to call at all. I imagined him sprawled on the balcony lounger I'd carefully selected, probably complaining about the ocean being too loud while he played games on his phone. That week, I immersed myself in work, staying late at the office, accepting extra projects, doing anything to distract myself from what was unfolding on that ship. However, each ping of my phone, every new voicemail notification sent a fresh wave of anger through me. The photos they continued to send were the worst. My brother posing in front of the infinity pool I dreamed of swimming in. My parents beaming at the candlelit dinner I'd planned as a special moment with them. Each image felt like a knife twisting in my gut, but it also strengthened my resolve. Sweetie, we're back home now, my mom's latest voicemail chirped. John had such a wonderful time. It was exactly what he needed. We have so many stories to tell you. Call us back. I stared at my phone, recalling all the instances I'd rushed to return their calls, desperate for their approval. Not this time. This time, their calls would remain unanswered, their messages unread. As I blocked their numbers one by one, I felt a strange mix of grief and liberation. The daughter they took for granted, the one who always answered, always showed up, always tried to please them, she was gone. In her place was someone new, someone who finally recognized her own worth. 2 weeks after their return, the desperate attempts to reach me intensified. My parents began calling my office, prompting my assistant to politely inform them that I was unavailable. They tried emailing, texting from different numbers, even reaching out through my cousins on social media. Each attempt was met with the same wall of silence. My mom's messages grew increasingly frantic. Marianne, this isn't like you. We're worried. What's wrong? Why are you being so difficult about this? I concentrated on rebuilding my routine without them. No more hurried weekend flights to Denver. No more lengthy phone calls listening to John's latest gaming achievements. No more forcing myself to smile through family dinners where I felt invisible. I redecorated my apartment, replacing family photos with art I loved. I joined a hiking group, started taking cooking classes, and filled my newly free weekends with activities that brought me joy. The constant burden of trying to earn their love began to dissipate, leaving me feeling lighter than I had in years. Your brother is very upset. My mom's latest email read. He says you're being selfish and that you've ruined the nice family vacation we had. I laughed out loud at that one, a sharp, bitter sound that echoed through my empty kitchen. The sheer audacity of it was almost impressive. They'd stolen my vacation, replaced me without a second thought. And somehow I was the selfish one for finally standing up for myself. That something about that email solidified everything for me. It was classic them twisting the situation to cast John as the victim, making me the villain for finally asserting myself. My dad tried a different tactic, leaving a voicemail that actually acknowledged something was amiss. Honey, if this is about the cruise, well, maybe we should have handled it differently. The subtle understatement was so typical of him, always recognizing the problem but never quite brave enough to truly address it. Too little, too late. I added his new number to my blocked list, feeling a small pang but pushing through it. Each time I refused to engage, each call I didn't answer, each message I felt like reclaiming a piece of myself I'd relinquished years ago. 3 months into my silence, my mom's facade finally crumbled. Her latest voicemail was different, raw, emotional, devoid of the usual excuses for John. Marianne, her voice cracked. I understand now. The cruise, we took it from you. You worked so hard to give us something special, and we didn't even consider how it would hurt you. We've always taken you for granted because you were the strong one, the successful one. We thought you didn't need us like John does. I see now how wrong we were. My dad followed with his own message, his voice heavy with regret. Sweet pea, I've been a coward all these years. I've witnessed your mother and brother dismiss your accomplishments, and I never defended you. I simply allowed it to happen because it was easier than rocking the boat. You deserved better from me. You deserved better from all of us. For the first time, I detected genuine pain in his voice, not just discomfort. The most revealing response came from John. Complete silence. No apologies. No acknowledgement of what he'd done. In his mind, he likely still perceived himself as the victim. But his silence spoke volumes, underscoring precisely why I'd needed to distance myself. While my parents were finally confronting their mistakes, he remained unchanged, entitled, expecting the world to revolve around him. I sat in my home office, gazing out over the San Francisco skyline as I listened to their messages. The sun was setting, casting the bay in hues of gold and pink, and I felt a profound sense of peace wash over me. Their belated recognition of their behavior didn't undo the years of hurt, didn't erase the pain of being replaced on that cruise, but it validated my decision to stand up for myself. Their desperation to reach me proved what I'd suspected all along. They'd only valued me when they could no longer take me for granted. Later that evening, as I deleted their latest messages, I caught my reflection in the window, shoulders back, head held high, a quiet confidence in my expression that hadn't been there before. The daughter who would have done anything for their approval was gone. In her place stood a woman who finally understood that their approval had never been worth the price they demanded. 6 months into my silence, my life had transformed in ways I never anticipated. Without the constant drain of trying to please my family, I discovered energy I didn't know I possessed. I redecorated my apartment, replacing the beige walls my mom had insisted on with bold colors I loved. The formal living room furniture that had sat unused purchased because my mom said it made me appear established, was donated and replaced with comfortable pieces that actually suited my style. Each change felt like reclaiming another part of myself. My weekends, once dedicated to exhausting flights to Denver and endless family obligations, became mine again. I joined a women's hiking group, began taking photography classes, and even started learning to sail on the bay. Something I'd always wanted to try, but never had the time for. The money I'd previously spent on plane tickets and gifts for John now went towards my own adventures. I started a travel fund, planning trips for myself instead of expensive presents for others who didn't appreciate them. Work also underwent a transformation. Without the constant interruptions from my mom's dramatic calls about John's latest crisis, I found myself more focused, more creative. I received another promotion, this time allowing myself to truly celebrate it instead of downplaying it to avoid making my brother feel inadequate. My colleagues noticed the shift in me, commenting on my newfound confidence, the way I spoke up more in meetings, how I seemed more present and engaged. The most challenging aspect wasn't the silence itself. It was managing the waves of guilt that occasionally overwhelmed me late at night. Years of conditioning had instilled in me the belief that I was responsible for my family's happiness, that setting boundaries made me selfish. However, as the months passed, those waves of guilt diminished in intensity. I began seeing a therapist who helped me recognize that my family's behavior wasn't merely thoughtless. It was emotional abuse. She helped me understand that my silence wasn't a punishment. It was a form of self-protection. Their messages continued to evolve, transitioning from angry demands to desperate pleas. My mom's latest email was particularly revealing. We never realized how much we depended on you until you were gone. John is struggling without your help, and we don't know what to do. It was telling that even in her apology, she was still fixated on John's needs. But for the first time, I felt no compulsion to rush in and fix things. Their struggles were no longer my responsibility. One evening, as I sat on my balcony watching the sunset over the bay, I discovered my dad's last voicemail still saved on my phone. "I miss you, sweet pea," his voice wavered. I miss the daughter I never took the time to truly know. I allowed myself to cry then, not from guilt or pain, but from a recognition of my own growth. The daughter he missed no longer existed. In her place was someone stronger, someone who understood that love shouldn't necessitate self-erasure. Exactly 1 year after the cruise incident, my parents appeared unannounced at my office in San Francisco. My assistant, who had become fiercely protective of my boundaries, called to warn me. "Your parents are in the lobby," she said. "Should I have security escort them out?" I sat at my desk, staring at the family photo I'd finally removed from my wall last month, and made a decision I'd been preparing for all year. "Send them up," I replied, my voice steady. When they entered my office, they seemed smaller somehow. My mom's usual confident demeanor was gone, replaced by something almost timido. My dad's shoulders were hunched, his eyes unable to meet mine initially. Silence stretched between us until my mom finally spoke, her voice breaking. "We sold the house," she said. "We told John he has to move out and support himself. We're trying to fix things, not just with you, but with everything." I gestured for them to sit, noticing how they perched uncertainly on the edge of their chairs. so different from their usual entitled comfort. My dad extracted a thick envelope. "These are from the cruise," he said, placing it on my desk. "Every receipt, every charge. We've calculated exactly what you spent, including the deposits and excursions. We want to reimburse you." I glanced at the envelope but didn't touch it. "It was never about the money," I said quietly. "It was about respect, about being seen, about having my feelings considered just once before John's." My mom began to cry then. Genuine tears, not the manipulative ones I'd often seen her use. "We know," she whispered. "We know that now. But we didn't just come to repay the cruise. We came to tell you that we're in therapy. Both of us. Learning why we did what we did. Why we placed so much on you and expected so little from John." I listened as they spoke of their realizations, of the damage they'd inflicted, of their hopes to rebuild. Not the relationship we had before, but something new, something healthier. They didn't ask for immediate forgiveness or demand I resume contact. Instead, they gave me something I'd never received from them before: respect for my boundaries. As they rose to leave, my dad handed me a letter. "Take your time," he said. "Read it when you're ready. We'll wait until you decide if and when you want us in your life again." They departed from my office without attempting to hug me or make me promise anything. I remained there long after they'd left, holding the unopened letter, feeling the weight of all it represented. For the first time in our relationship, they were prioritizing my needs. It wasn't earth-shattering or dramatic, simply a quiet acknowledgement of my worth, my right to set boundaries, my power to choose the relationship I desired. It's been 2 years since that day in my office. I did eventually read their letter, a 12-page confession detailing every instance they'd pushed me aside for John, every moment they'd taken me for granted, every opportunity they'd missed to be real parents to me. It wasn't just an apology. It was an acknowledgement of who I'd become despite their treatment. They wrote about observing me from afar this past year, witnessing my success, my strength, my refusal to diminish myself any longer. John never did apologize. Last I heard, he was finally employed at a local gaming store, compelled to support himself for the first time at 39. My parents maintain careful boundaries with him now, no longer rushing to resolve his every problem. They are learning slowly but surely that enabling him was never love. It was fear. Fear of allowing him to fail, fear of allowing him to mature, fear of relinquishing their role as his perpetual saviors. As for me, I'm different now. The woman who stood in that airport terminal, silently accepting her replacement, feels like a stranger. I've learned that true strength isn't about enduring mistreatment. It's about possessing the courage to say enough. My worth is no longer contingent on my family's approval, and that's the most valuable lesson this entire experience has imparted. I've initiated rebuilding a relationship with my parents on my own terms. We meet once every few months, engaging in quiet conversations where they listen more than they speak. My mom no longer launches into stories about John the moment we sit down. My dad has discovered his voice, sharing his own thoughts instead of merely nodding along with whatever my mom says. It's not perfect, but it's genuine, and that's all I ever wanted. Last week, My dad called simply to express his pride in the woman I've become, not because of my achievements or successes, but because I finally stood up for myself. You taught us how to be better parents, he said, by showing us what we stood to lose. My mom added that witnessing me construct my life this past year helped her comprehend what she'd been doing wrong all along. We kept trying to make you smaller, she confessed, when we should have been helping you shine. Sometimes I reflect back on that cruise they took without me. What initially felt like the ultimate betrayal evolved into the catalyst for my transformation. By replacing me on that ship, they inadvertently set me free. Free to evolve into someone who would never again accept being an afterthought in her own life.